Hey there, Jon Chorba here from ReallyEasyGuitarLessons.com, and in this video lesson, I'm going to teach you how to play the new song Rich Men North of Richmond by Oliver Anthony. This song blew up on social media. I got to watch that live as it happened. This guy, Oliver Anthony, I don't know who he is, just some random dude from, I believe, Virginia, has a great song, an unbelievable Tyler Childers-esque voice, and you know, he blew up on social media. It was shared by millions of people. I feel like everybody has heard this song by now. It's crazy, but it's a great song. People are connecting to it on a deep level, and it is a great song for the beginner guitar player. So I'm going to walk you through it in 3 different levels. Level 1 is for the absolute beginner. You have just picked up a guitar for the first time very recently. You don't know much. Everything's confusing. Level 1 will be perfect for you. Level 2 will introduce some big boy chords and some, real strumming. It's going to be a close approximation to what Mr. Anthony had played in his now viral video. And then in level 3, I'm going to show you how he does some dynamic elements of strumming and introducing some fills to make the chord progression sound more interesting and try to match a little bit more to how he performed it. So let's get started. All right, so before we jump into level 1 here, I want to mention that this song is played with a capo on the 3rd fret. If you watch his video, he's playing with a resonator type guitar with a capo on the 5th fret, and I believe that he tunes his guitar down a whole step, which is why the capo is on the 5th fret in his video. But if you tune your guitar to standard tuning to match the key that he is in, then you want to put your capo on the 3rd fret. So with that said, let's get started. Level 1 are what I call stupid simple chords. So these are all chords that happen on the G, B, and E string, the top 3 strings of the guitar. And what's great about this song, again, for beginners, there's only 4 chords in it, and it just so happens to be 3 out of those 4 chords can be made into these stupid simple chords that literally anybody can do. So, first chord, first step, E minor, right? To play an E minor in a stupid simple way, you don't have to do anything. It's just the G, B, and E strings played open, right? So there's an E minor. A C, you're going to use your first finger on the 1st fret of the B string and play the open G and the open E. So that's a C. For a G, we're going to take our 3rd finger and put it on the 3rd fret, relative to the capo, of course, on the high E string, and then again play those 3 strings. And that is our G. And then for D, this is the most complex one. You're going to put your 1st finger on the 2nd fret of the G string, 3rd finger on the 3rd fret of the B string, 2nd finger, 2nd fret of the E string, play from the G string down, again, all 3 strings. That's going to be a D. Now, watch out with this chord. A lot of times, students, their ring finger will bend back and touch the high E string, causing that note to be muted. So you want to make sure that you're on the tip of your finger and that your dip joint, that is this little knuckle right there, that your dip joint has a nice bend in it so that everything's out of the way. So those are the 4 chords: E minor, C, G, and D. E minor, C, G, and D. So your first step, you're brand new to guitars, you want to make sure that you know those chords so that when I say you gotta play an E minor, you know what it looks like, you know what a C looks like, you know what a G looks like, and you know what a D looks like. And I would also spend some time practicing specifically going from G to D. Okay, it's not that hard of a change, but it can be tricky enough that it gives you some pause, and chord changes are the thing that you want to focus a lot on as a beginner guitar player. Okay? And then the order of those chords is exactly as we laid out. It's E minor, followed by C, followed by G, followed by D. And each chord lasts 4 beats. So E minor, play on the 1, count to 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. C, 2, 3, 4. G, 2, 3, 4. D, 2, 3, 4. E, 2, 3, 4. C, 2, 3, 4. G, 2, 3, 4, D, 2, 3, 4. So that chord progression is the chord progression for the entire song. The only time there's a variation to that It is in what I think is the third verse. It's kind of weird how to label the sections of these songs. I can't really tell what would be a verse and what would be a chorus. It's very interesting from a composition perspective what the verse and what the chorus is. But there is one point in time in the song where that D, he just hangs on it for an extra 4 beats. So the whole song is E minor for a measure, C for a measure, G for a measure, D for a measure. There is one point in particular where that D chord just lasts for an extra 4 beats. Other than that, it's that progression over and over again. So that is what your fretting hand is going to be doing. It's going to be making those shapes, and it's going to be lasting for those shapes. Going to be lasting for the amount of time that I just explained. One measure for each chord. Your strumming hand, if you're on the beginner side, I would start off with just doing quarter notes. So it just means doing down strums on each chord, 4 down strums per chord. So E minor, 1, 2, 3, 4, C, 2, 3, 4, G, 2, 3, 4, D, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and I would start with that. And the big rule when you are new at playing chords and strumming is that your right hand can't stop, okay? So if you're brand new at this, you don't want to have a gap, what I call the gap of doom, in between chord changes. So if you're going from C to G and you hear this, long silence, long silence. All right, if you're hearing that, you're training your hands to be out of sync with one another, okay? This hand has to keep going at all times, and if you hear a crappy sounding chord, that is the red flag and the tell that you need to practice the chord change more in isolation. Just build up the skill of changing chords, and then, you know, it will all come together, but you don't want your strumming hand to be a slave to your picking hand, okay? So keep your right hand going. If you want to add an extra layer of rhythm with these stupid simple chords, you can do the boom chicka strum. I'm going to explain this more in level 2. It's going to sound better in level 2. But again, if you're on the brand new side of stuff, boom chicka is simply doing a down, down, up, right? Boom chicka, boom chicka, boom chicka, boom chicka. I'm doing a down, down, up motion. Boom is the down, chicka is a down, up. Boom chicka, boom chicka, boom chicka, boom chicka. Okay, and you just would do that pattern on each chord twice. You're doing that pattern twice per chord. Level 2, same chords, but different voicings for each chord. I call these the big boy chords, the common open position chords. So your E minor is now going to be this. First finger, second fret, A string, second finger, second fret, D string. All 6 strings are in play. There's your E minor. Your C, first finger, first fret, B string, second finger, second fret, D string, third finger, third fret, A string. Play from the A string down, and there is a C. G, gonna look like this. Second finger, third fret, E string. First finger, second fret, A string. The D and the G are open. Ring finger, third fret, B string. Pinky finger, third fret, E string. All 6 strings are in play. And then your D, it's the same as it was in level 1, except add the D string to it. First finger, second fret, G string, third finger, third fret, B string, second finger, second fret, E string. So those are your 4 chords for the big boy version here in level 2. And again, if you are new to chords and chord changing, specifically going from the C to the G, that is a difficult change, okay? I highly, highly recommend that if you are new to changing and your C to G is not good, I would practice this about 5,000 times. Because if you get, the better you get at this change, the easier it is to learn tons of songs, right? You want to, if you're on the beginner side of playing guitar, put a lot of focus on chord changing up front. It just will solve a lot of problems. Okay, so E minor to C, C to G, G to D. Again, each chord lasts one measure. 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, G, 2, 3, 4, D, 2, 3, 4. Adding the boom chicka strumming to this, right? When you do boom chicka on these chords, you don't want to do all the strings all of the time always. It would sound completely obnoxious. It would sound like this. Okay, there's a time and a place maybe to sound like that, but throughout an entire song, especially a song that is as delicate as this and has great dynamic range, you want to be able to, push things forward and back things off. And a big way of achieving that is to pay attention to how many strings you are hitting and how you're hitting them. So with boom chicka, you want to do your boom on the low part of the chord. You could be really specific. In some country songs, right, they do an alternating bass line where they're hitting one specific string and then doing the chicka on the higher parts. In this case, just to keep it streamlined and easy, I'm going to say do the boom just on the lower strings of the chord and the chicka on the higher strings of the chord. So on the E minor, here's my boom, my chicka is higher. I change to the C, my boom now starts on the A string, not the E string, because the E string's not played in the chord. So whether I hit just that string or if I hit a couple strings, it's, guitar's forgiving. But again, I'm doing the boom on the low, the chicka on the high. Change to a G, now the boom's on the low E string. And then on the D, the boom is on the D string. Okay, so you gotta pay attention to that, because if you go to that D chord and you're hitting the low E and A string, on your booms, on your down strums, it's gonna sound really sloppy and not good, okay? So pay attention to what strings are played in that chord. And just like I explained in level 1, when you're adding strumming and chord changing together, you want to make sure that there is no gap of doom. There's no long pause between your chord changes. If there is, that means you need to focus on your chord changes in isolation. When you're adding strumming to it, I give you permission to make your chords be not as accurate as long as your hands are working together. Your fretting hand is making these shapes, and in changing at those times, your strumming hand is making this boom, chicka, boom, chicka pattern. And then again, that boom, chicka, it's 2 boom chickas per chord. And again, that chord progression lasts throughout the song, with the exception of that one verse or chorus, depending on how you look at it, where the D lasts 2 measures instead of 1. And in that case, the D, he's just hanging on it. He's not strumming the whole time. It's just play it once, let it breathe for 2 measures instead of 1. Okay, so level 3 is we're gonna start playing with the dynamics. It's gonna be the same chords, same general strumming pattern, okay? But he does some cool little elements that if you add them in, makes you sound like you know what you're doing. One of my students, Greg, likes to call these embellishments on a chord progression, and they sound great. Again, if you're on the newer side, they're not that hard to implement. I would work on, obviously chord changing and just syncing your hands up. If you can't do that first, then don't jump to this level. But if you've been playing for some time and you got your chord changes down, then these are great little tricks to add in to make your playing sound a little more polished. So the first one is on the C chord, right? You could do this little hammer-on with your middle finger. You hear that a lot in country, bluegrass, folk music. On a C, you're just hammering on open D string, that middle finger note, doing a little hammer-on on that string. So in context, You could either do it on both boom chickas or on the second one. You know, you could drive yourself crazy trying to match a note for note recording of a performance, but most musicians just take the general chords, the general vibe of how somebody is playing something, and then just kind of make it your own. So I'm kind of painting with a broad brush stroke here on what he's doing. So we got a hammer-on thing on the C, and then he does this cool sounding fill on the D chord, which sounds like this. Okay, what's happening there is he'll strum the D chord once with the down strum, another down strum with a hammer on with the puny pinky. The pinky's gonna get involved here. Hammer it on to the G string of the 4th fret, again relative to the capo, and then give it an up strum with that held down. And then take it off, down strum, and then take your first finger off, down up strum. Okay, sorry, I said just a down strum, down up strum there. So hammer on, up strum, take it off, down up, take your first finger off, down up. All right, it sounds weird by itself, but when you put it all together, and you're playing more than one string, and you transition back to the E minor chord, it flows really, really nice. This is a very common thing in country music and again, folk, bluegrass. You'll see Chris Stapleton do this a lot. Tyler Childers does it a lot. And Mr. Oliver Anthony does it too. So with those little things in mind, right, you can take the basic chord progression and change it to this. Some other things that he does that you might want to try to implement if you're playing this yourself. Obviously, there's some spots where he's not strumming a pattern, right? He's not doing the boom chicka. He's just hanging on a chord for a whole note. Okay, and you could either strum that hard or do a rake across the string. You could even do a rake closer to the bridge to give it more of a bright, harpy sound. And then in some spots, specifically, it seems like the pattern that he follows is he'll do that chord progression 3 times, and then on the 4th time, he'll do it a little bit more like a picked riff thing. And so what he'll do there is he'll take that E minor, put his ring finger down on the B string of the 3rd fret, and just pick those high strings. Then he changes to C, and he puts his pinky down on the 3rd fret of the E string, and he picks those strings, right? So if I do one pattern strumming and then one pattern with this pick, you can hear that little dynamic shift. Very, very nice. All right, so no matter what level you're at, you still want to go through it in a systematic process, right? You want to make sure that you know how to play the chords first and practice and isolate any chord changes that give you an issue. Chord changes are the thing that hold back most beginner guitar players from getting better at learning songs. Once you get the chord changes done, make sure that you understand the flow of the chord progression. It's very easy. There's only 4 chords. There's only 1 chord progression. So compared to a lot of other songs, this is quite basic and easy to get your head around. Got the chord progression down, start adding strumming to it. Remember, when you add strumming to your playing with your chord changing, you want to make sure that your hands are in sync so that if there's a gap of doom in between your chord changes, please focus on practicing your chord changes more in isolation and just keep your right hand going through the chord changes. So that's it for this video lesson. I hope you got a lot out of it. I hope you play the song. I hope you play it loud. I hope you play it proud. Mr. Oliver Anthony, we're all rooting for you. This is a very cool experience to watch somebody go from literally rags to riches. Nobody knows who he is, and now, he's becoming more popular by the day. So congrats to you, sir. You wrote a great song. You got a great voice. And I hope a lot of beginner guitar players get a lot of value out of learning how to play it. Thanks again for watching. I'll see you next time. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like and subscribe button to get more videos like this. If you are a beginner or intermediate guitar player and you are totally lost, confused, overwhelmed, not sure what you should be working on, head over to reallyeasyguitarlessons.com/quiz where you can take my free guitar practicing assessment. I'll ask you a few short questions, and then based off of your answers, I will tell you what your top practicing priorities are. You could find that at reallyeasyguitarlessons.com/quiz. It's totally free. Results are delivered instantly. Again, reallyeasyguitarlessons.com/quiz. Thank you again for watching, and I'll see you next time.